Okay, so I've got two games that I thought I was going to show you. So the first one is a sort of like warm-up game, if you like, called Fizz Buzz Multiples. So this is really good to practice that first stage of learning tables when children are learning to count in multiples. So for example, we might be counting in multiples of 3. So you go 1, 2, fizz, 3, 4, 5, fizz, 7, 8, fizz. Is there anybody who'd like to play this game with me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so would you like to start? Or would you like me to start?
I've got 1,
2,
fizz,
4,
5,
fizz,
7,
8,
fizz,
10,
11,
fizz,
13,
14.
fizz.
Okay, so I think we've probably got the idea of that. Thank you very much for volunteering to join in.
So I get a gold star.
That's a good game to sort of warm up. You can sort of develop it with your child when they get really good at it. You might decide to do multiples of 5 at the same time, in which case you would use Buzz for your multiples of 5. And if you had a number that was both a multiple of 3 and a multiple of 5, you would say Fizz Buzz. So kids quite enjoy this game. If you're only playing with one person, you'd want to do an odd number. Otherwise, it would always be the same person who comes up with the fizz or the buzz. So ways of supporting this. You might want to, if you've got a child who was a bit fidgety or wouldn't settle to a task, this might be a good way to distract them and perhaps re-engage them. And you could perhaps take them off to where there's some steps, and you could do the game with them jumping on and off a step or up and down the stairs. So that can make it more fun. If you've got a child who finds the counting in multiples really difficult, you could try with the whisper counting, practicing that first before you played the game. So they would use their fingers to help them. You'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then have a go with the game as well. Okay, so that is the quick warm-up game I wanted to show everybody. So the next game that I've got is to use some of those resources you were given when you had your original training. So you were given a pack of playing cards. So this is a way to use those playing cards to practice tables. So for this game, the example I wanted to show you was to do perhaps your 2 times or your 4 times table. And if you have a look, I'm trying to see if I get my pen up. So for example, for this game, these are the cards I've chosen to use. So you can pick out which numbers might be appropriate for your child. So I've chosen the easier ones. For my pretend child, perhaps would find some of the other ones more tricky. So the ace is the one. And then I'd also use a big number with a multiplication sign. So I'd have my playing cards, 3 copies of the numbers maybe. So I'd got enough to play a game. We'd put them in a pile. We'd have a multiplication sign. And if we were going to use the 2 times table, we'd have a big 2, and we'd take it in turns to turn over a card. And to work out, we either know that times table, or by using other resources. I can't get rid of my pen now. You might use pairs of socks to help them with their counting. If they can't do it themselves, You might choose to use cubes that you'd put together so they've got something to touch and move around. So you'd put those cubes in groups of 2. So you can do the same thing with the 4 times table. So the idea being that you could then get the children, if they're now good at their 2 and their 4 times tables, you might do this over a number of sessions. You might then want to say to them, well, let's record our answers and write them down. And then you can start to look at things like what patterns have we got there? So if you look at this table here, we've got a pretend recording of what the child might have put. And if they've turned over the number 1 and they multiply it by 2, we've got a 2 in the times 2 column. If they multiply it by 4, we've got a 4 in the times 4 column. And you might say to them, well, do you notice a pattern here? What can you see? And you'd hope that they'd be thinking that the numbers in the times 4 are double what they are in the times 2. The other thing that you could get your child to look at would be to use 100 square and to shade in what they came up with from playing the game and what patterns do they notice there. So in the first one here, you can see the blue columns, so it's every other one. In the times 4, you can see that it's not as many. You talk about what that pattern is, and that's all part of building a strategy for knowing your times tables, because not all children are going to be good at that rote remembering, so they need other strategies to help them. So how else could you use this game? You could move on if your child was better at tables and knew more. You could have 2 piles of cards of numbers, so that instead of your times 2 or your times 4, you got those 2 cards you turn and then give your answer for them for that multiplication. You could turn it around and ask them, well, what's your multiplication? What other times, how you can change it then to using what division facts can you use from this times table fact? So for example, if they did 2 times 2 equals 4, you'd hope they'd be able to come up with 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Because they also need to get that link with division as well. And then to make it a bit of fun, you can make a mistake. Can they pick you up on that? And that's quite useful to do with children who make mistakes, because then they know that you make them as well, and they're not so worried then about making those mistakes. So that's sort of a bit of a run through. I think we've got maybe just about a minute or so if anybody has a question, if anybody wanted to ask anything.
Yes, so these suggestions, are they specifically for years kind of 2 and 3, or are they more general, depending on where the child is?
It depends on your child, because just because they're in year 2 or 3 doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be at a specific level. If they were a year 2 child, you'd expect them to be able to be counting in multiples of 3 and to do their 2, 5s and 10 tables. But you're working with children who perhaps are not quite as far on as would be expected. So you bear that in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you, Ruth. There's also, we're going to have a Q&A at the end for anyone that wants to stay on after the end of the session for any extra questions. So thank you, Ruth. Now I'm just going to hand over to Annie, who I've given the title of General Games because I couldn't think of anything else. So I will hand over to you, Annie. Thank you.
Sources of games that you'll find played in lots of schools, and they're really useful, both bingo and 3 in a row, or sometimes you can play 4 in a row, and they can be adapted for doing lots of different things with math skills. So the first one I'm just going to talk to you about is bingo, and yeah, if I could, that's fine like that.
Yeah, you just tell me when to scroll down.
Yeah, maybe scroll, if you could just scroll it up a bit, that'd be great. Thank you. And so depending on how much time you got and how well the child is, you know, how competent the child is with doing it, you can make a bingo board where you can literally just have like a whiteboard or a piece of paper where you either split it into 4, or you might want to split it into 6 to make the game longer. Quite often I would have prepared the scorecard beforehand, because I would have put specific numbers on them that I know that they can work with. So if you look at this example that's up on the screen, there's 2 bingo cards there for a game of bingo for the 2 times tables. Now the top card, which has got 14, 0, 24, 22, 18, 6, 4 and 20, that one is for children who are more confident with their 2 times tables and know all of them, whereas the one below has been differentiated, so it's only covering certain ones. It hasn't got things like 9 times 2, and it hasn't got 8 times 2. And so when I'm making the bingo boards for that child, I'll think about the numbers that I'm actually placing on there. So you can use bingo for so many different things. You can use it for your times tables. You could also use it for shapes. So you could make little tiny cards. I don't know if you can see this. Is it too tiny? That just says circle, and all the different shapes. And then on your bingo school card, you would have the shape, and they have to match it and then cross it off on their bingo card. You could be doing it for doubling, and you pull the number out of the bag and they have to find the double answer on the bingo scorecard. You could also be doing it with time, so that you are looking at the correlation between, let's say for example here I've got a little time that says 8:27 p.m. and they on their bingo card have to find that in the 24-hour clock, so they have to find 20.27. So they have to, so you could do it with time. I don't know how many of you have come across an array for multiplication. That's what an array is, and they help us with learning multiplication. So that array there would either be 3 times 4, 3 lots of 4, or 4 lots of 3. Now you could do lots of little arrays like that, and then they have to find the total on their bingo card. So that's called an array, and those are really great for when you're learning multiplication. So you can adjust it, you know, and so you can play it with so many different things. I think I said number bonds. Another one which I was actually doing today with some kids is near doubles. So when you're teaching them doubles, like double 6 or double 5, you then move on to what are called near doubles. I'm just going to hold that up on a piece of paper. And these were little cards that I'd made. And so if you pulled one of these out of your bingo bag, 7 plus 8, you could go, so how are we going to find that answer? Well, we know that double 7 is 14, and we need to add on 1 more. Or for the 10 plus 9, we could go, oh, well, I know that double 10 is 20, and I'm going to subtract 1. Now, near doubles are really helpful for helping when they, you know, trying to get quicker at making calculations. So those are near doubles. Now, I just thought what I would do is just do a quick game of bingo with the 5 times tables. And I just, if anyone's got a scrap of paper in front of them, to just split it into a grid of 4 like that. And then if you could just put 4 answers from the 5 times tables on it. So if people could just split a piece of paper into 4 like this, and on it just put 4 answers from the 5 times tables. We're going up to 12 times 5. And then I'm going to put my little questions, which I've made earlier, on little cards, and I always have a selection of like little bags just to make it fun. So I'm pulling them out of little bags. Now I might be, if I was doing it with a child who I know likes something like Pokemon, I might say, you be Pikachu, I'm going to be Charizard, and we're going to have a competition to depersonalize it or make it about something that they really enjoy. Like, let's say 2 footballers, like you be Ronaldo and I'll be someone else, or it just makes it more fun. So finding what they're interested in and doing that. Or you might, if they're into dogs, it might be a breed of dog. I'm going to be a Dalmatian, you're going to be a Husky, just to make it a bit of fun. And you could have a tally chart to see how many games the Dalmatian wins against the Husky, just to make it a bit more fun. Right, I'm going to put them in my bag, and when you have when your question comes up and you find your answer, cross it off on your board, and then when someone's got full house, but I might ask you questions as we're going along. So I'm going to pull the first one out of the bag. Right, 10 times 5. So you can't really see these. I'm really sorry that they're not very clear on the screen. So 10 times 5. Has anybody found 10 times 5? Oh, great. So lots of people have found 10 times 5. Right, next one. 4 lots of 5. 4 times 5. So if you found 4 lots of 5, cross it off on your board. Now, Andrew, I'm going to pick on you. Can you tell me, looking at the numbers on your board, what question you'd really like me to pull out?
9 times 5.
You'd like me to pull out 9 times 5. Oh, now, Andrew, let's think about that. 9 times 5. If I know that 10 lots of 5 are 50, I know that 9 lots of 5 is 5 less. So you want 45 on your board. Have you got 45?
Indeed.
Great. Let's see what I pull out next. Okay. Oh, 3 lots of 5. Has anybody got 3 lots of 5? Bernard, could you tell me what the answer is for 3 lots of 5? Oh, you're on mute, Bernard.
15.
15. How did you get to that answer, Bernard?
Lots of fingers.
You counted on your fingers. Can anybody else tell me, did they do it a different way? Do they know it off by heart? Angela, do you know that one off by heart?
So I did 5, 10, 15, because I can count.
Brilliant. So you counted up in 5s. Great. Well done. Right. Has anybody nearly got a full house? Has anybody got one more to get? Oh, right. We'll do another one. Oh, 12 lots of 5. Did anybody? Janine, I can see you got that one. How did you get to your answer, Janine, for that one?
Well, I know that 10 times 5 is 50, and then I counted on 2 lots of 5 after that.
I love your strategy. I call that my anchor one. If I know that 10 lots of 5 are 50, and then you counted on 2, I love that strategy you use. Right, let's try another one. No full house yet. Right. The next one I pulled out is 11 5s. Has anybody got 11 5s? Now we could use Janine's strategy again there, and we know 10 lots of 5 are 50, so 11 5s are 55. Right, I'm just going to see what ones I've got left. I can't believe no one's got a full house. I wonder who's going to be first. Right, 7 lots of 5. Has anybody got that one? James, have you got a full house? I saw you put your arms in the air.
Well, I've got 2 out of 4. That to me is.
Oh, you got 2 out of 4, so you're halfway there. Well done, James. Has anybody? No full house. James, how did you get 7 lots of 5?
I know that 7 5s are 35.
So you know off by heart, and you could have 5 times 5 is 25, and then on 2 more lots. That's another good anchor one. I'm going to pull one more out and see if anyone gets a full house, because I see we're running out of time. So I'm going to have to stop actually in a second. My last one I'm going to pull out is 1 lot of 5. Has anybody got 1 lot of 5? Bernard, has anybody got a full house? Right, I'm going to actually have to stop there because we've run out of time. But as you can see, even only having 4 to fill on a board, no one's got a full house. And whenever you're doing it, you're asking questions to them, and you're actually modeling strategies for working out the answers. You could be counting up. You could be dropping 5p's into a pot as you're counting up. So you're always modeling the whole time. If necessary, you could be drawing on a whiteboard beside them. You know, I was showing you the arrays. You could be drawing an array to help them count up in 5. So you could have drawn, let's say I pulled out 3 lots of 5. I could then go 5, 10, 15. So I'm just really sort of being repetitive and trying to really help them with what works for them. Now, I haven't unfortunately got time to show you, but 3 in a row or 4 in a row, which is also in the resources for Number Champions, is like bingo. You can adapt it to, you know, times tables, time. You can do arrays. You just make up the board yourself, and it's a game. It's a bit like Connect 4. You're basically aiming to get 3 in a row or 4 in a row and to block your partner. And kids really, really enjoy that. And I find with both of those games, you can make them quite quickly if you haven't got the resources beforehand. They're always possible to make on the spot as well. And the other thing that I always carry around with me for playing a game like 3 in a row is I make sure I've got really nice counters. Like I might have some little shells that I use rather than counters, or some nice shiny stones. And I might also make sure I've got some nice pens for crossing out on my bingo board, just to make it a bit more exciting. But thank you very much, because it's time for me to stop. I think the questions at the end.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
Angela, I can see you've got your hand up.
Do you want to do your question, Angela, while you've just got Annie there?
Yeah, if you don't mind. What's the 3 in the row? You say it's a resource. Can you just show me what?
Yeah,
so that was in the link.
Shall I just
share the screen? Yeah. I'll share the screen because I've got it up. Maybe if we have 5 minutes at the end, we could show it. But that was sent out volunteers. There's a link to that. So on the Number Champions resources page, there's a link to this game.
So it's basically a board of numbers that are relevant to whatever you're teaching. This particular one here is for doubling. And then the winner is the first one to get 3 in a row. So a bit like the bingo board, you look for your number and you strategically pace it to try to get 3 in a row, but you can try to block your partner. So if you have questions about that at the end, but the resource is on there, and it's a really good game, but you can also make a much bigger board than that, and you could have 4 in a row and you could adapt it, but you could use it again for times tables, all of those different things. It's just to have a couple of games like that that you can adapt to practice those core number skills. Thanks.
Great. So we'll now move on to Sonia, who is another one of our mentors, who will be running through some games on addition and subtraction. Thanks, Sonia.
Okay.
Give me a shout if you need anything.
Okay, thank you. Before I start telling you about my games, I just wanted to give 2 notes. The first one is that I've based these games on adding and subtracting number bonds to 10, but all of these games can be adjusted. You can adjust them to number bonds to 20, you can adjust them to addition or subtraction to or from 25, you could choose a random number like 13 or 50, they can all be adjusted. The other thing I wanted to mention is that all of these games provide a really good opportunity to practice with the child the language that's associated with all of these operations. So instead of saying adding all the time, we could say, what is this more than this? Or you could use the word increase. It doesn't always have to be add. With subtract, you could use take away or minus, less than, decrease. There are loads of different words that you can use that the child will encounter at school, and it's a really nice way to practice it in a fun game. Okay, so the first card game I want to show you is called On Your Forehead. All I've done is take some cards, and I've selected already the cards 1 to 10. They're all random, and I'm just going to turn them over so I can't see them. And I'm going to take the top card and I'm going to put it on my forehead. Okay, now I can see what number it is, but when I'm playing with a child, I won't see what number it is. And the child has to tell me what the number is in a number sentence. So instead of just telling me the number is 7, I might ask them to tell me an addition sum. So then I have to say, oh, it's 5 plus 2. And then I can either answer correctly or incorrectly and have another go. Or I might say, you know what, give me a subtraction sum this time, please. So they might say, oh, I know, it's 10 minus 3. And then I'll get it right. I could, excuse me, I could ask them to write 3 different sums or 4 different sums on a whiteboard, all with this one as the answer. So I could say, okay, let's do an addition, let's do a subtraction and a multiplication and a division. You can adjust it to the needs of the child. And then the child will take their turn. They can choose another number from the top, and then you give them some sums to tell you the answer. So that was the first game, On Your Forehead. Then my next game also uses these 10 cards, the same ones, and it's called Count and Move. Okay, so sometimes you might find that the child you're working with gets a bit jittery and needs to move a little bit. So, and which is normal, and that's fine. And this game sort of encourages that. It gives it a bit of a break. So with this game, you and your partner will come up with some activities, some actions like clapping or blinking or star jumps, whatever's sort of suitable for that child and the space you're in. And then you choose a card and they have to do that action, or you have to do that action, or both of you have to do the action, however you're playing it, this many number of times. Now, to make it harder or more complicated, you could say, well, instead of doing it 1 time, hold on, what plus 1 makes 10? Let's use number bonds to 10. So which number plus 1 makes 10? That's 9. Okay, so let's do the action 9 times. If it was blinking, let's blink 9 times, whatever it might be. Okay. We might say, okay, this time it's clapping and we're going to do number bonds to 20. So here's the card, it's number 7 again. Well, let's do clapping this time. How many times? Well, let's see. We know that 7 plus 3 makes 10, and from 10 to 20 is 10. So we've got 10 and 3, that's 13. We're going to clap 13 times. Okay, you can do it any way you want, with subtraction, with any number bonds, just to get a bit of movement into the lesson. Okay, my next game, I've got 20 cards. I have selected them beforehand. I'm going to put them on the table. I know it's not ideal, but maybe you'll be able to see some of what I'm showing you. I'm just putting them out in rows of 5. I've got 4 rows of 5. You can do this with 20 cards. You could do it with 40 cards. You could have 20 and the student could have 20. You could do 40 cards all together. You could play together however you want. But this game is called Race to 10. And what you have to do, you can model it first, you could play it together, or the student does it by themselves, is to find numbers that add up to 10. So here I've got an 8 and a 2 that make 10. So I'm just going to clear them off the board to the side. And the aim of the game is to get rid of as many cards as possible from the board. You can encourage them to use their number bonds to 10 and just use 2 cards like 7 and 3 and take them off. Or if there's an option, you could have them use 3 cards, so extend it a little bit. Here's a 6 and a 2 and a 2. So here we've got 3 cards making 10. So really, like I said, the aim is just to make as many number bonds to 10, and then those cards can come off the board. And you want to see at the end how many cards you have left, and see who you could see who did it in the fewest moves, or who has the fewest cards left, or who got rid of all their cards. Okay, so that one was called Race to 10. How many number bonds to 10 can you make, and how many cards can you get rid of? Now for the next game, I'm using the same cards and I'm just going to turn them over because this is a game of pairs. Now, normally in pairs, when we play it, we look for numbers that are the same. This time I'm going to look for numbers that add up to 10. And you would prepare the cards beforehand to make sure you had the right numbers that add up to 10. Or you could even have your student prepare those cards. You could give them the pack of cards and take out all the face cards and the number 10s, and then you could have them find all the number bonds to 10, turn them over, mix them up and place them down, and then you can play pairs together. So you're just going to take it in turns with the student to turn over 2 cards at a time and see if they make 10. This is 8 and 4, which don't add up to 10. So I'm going to turn them back over and try and remember that I have an 8 and a 4 here. When it's the next person's turn, they'll also turn over 2 cards and try and make 10. So this one here is a 6, and I remember that there's a 4 next door, so then I've got my pair. And I can have another turn if I make a pair that adds up to 10. Again, you could make it adding up to 20. You can adjust it whichever way you want. And the final game I wanted to show you doesn't actually involve the cards. So I'm going to push them out of the way. I've just got a bowl and I've got some toys of my children. They're just these little screws. And I took 20 of them. You could take 15, you could take 10 of the same thing, whatever you want. I could start with 10, I could start with half of these, and then add in more if I feel the child's comfortable enough. I've called this one hidden pieces, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my child, the child I'm working with, to look away. And while they're looking away, I'm going to hide some of the pieces under the bowl so they don't know how many are there. And outside the bowl, I've left them. I've left a few. So when I've done that, I'm going to ask the child to come and have a look. And they have got to find out how many screws are under the bowl without looking and without counting them. So they're going to count how many screws are outside of the bowl and use that information to tell them how many are in the bowl. So hopefully they'll be able to count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So hopefully this will help them practice their addition skills, to know that if you have 9 on the outside, that you could jump to 10, because 10s are our friends. So you could say, well, 9 plus 1 is 10. And then from 10 to 20 is another 10. So the 1 and the 10 make 11. So there must be 11 on the inside. And then you could lift it up and have them count and check it. And then you can let them hide some while you turn away. And then you can model to them how you would do it and how you would find out how many are under the bowl. And like someone mentioned before, you could make a mistake and see if they catch it, and show them that everyone makes mistakes and it's fine. And those things are all normal. So those are my games. I hope I didn't run through them too quickly, and I hope you will find them helpful.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sonia. Any quick questions for Sonia? No? Thank you. So we will head over to our last mentor, Bruno, who's made it in from Parents' Evening. Hi, Bruno.
Hello. Yeah, I'm here. Lorraine, can you just tell me when my time is up? Because I'm not very good at keeping track of.
You officially have about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay, that's good. But I'll probably lose track, so just tell me.
Okay.
I'll share my screen. I think I need to stop my video, otherwise my face will be host disabled participant screen share. Oh, I can't share my screen. Can you make myself a host?
Yes, I've just made you a co-host, so hopefully.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're quick. So good. Screen share. And I will minimize this. Can you all see the presentation? Lorraine, is that okay?
Yeah, we can just see some of the controls have blocked out a little strip along the top, but I think it should be fine.
How to get rid of that? Does it go out by itself? Does it just disappear?
Not sure. We might be okay once you go through to the next slide.
Anyway, you shouldn't stop looking at the presentation. Anyway, so these are just some of the tricks that I use during lesson to either break the ice, or if I see that the lesson is not going well or the session is not going well, I just do one of them. Or at the end of the session, as a sort of a treat, just trying to get children to engage or re-engage. They all involve mathematics in a way. And the idea is also to maybe use the trick to engage in a mathematical conversation. See if children can maybe use mathematics to try to understand how the game works, and maybe try to get them to try to do the trick with you, see if they can understand how it works, and maybe try to do the trick with you. The first one I came across inside a Christmas cracker, and I was really amazed because for the first time I found something useful inside a Christmas cracker, and it was the mystery calculator. You might have seen this one before. Is 6 individual cards, and if you can, I will probably have separate cards rather than a sheet of paper, but you can also have a sheet of paper. I will send Lorraine a copy of this presentation so you can just print this slide. But if you have separate cards, I think the trick is more visually appealing than just a sheet of paper. But anyway, and you can also laminate the card so it lasts longer. And it's basically you're trying to guess the number that the child chose. So the game, the trick starts by you asking the child to choose a number from one of the cards. Now there is another way of playing this, of running this trick. You don't show the cards and just ask the child to think of a number between 1 and 60. But the way I play, I like to show the children the cards and say, look, choose a number. Please, obviously don't tell me, and I'll try to work out your number by using my mystery calculator. So can I please have a volunteer to choose a number? All you have to do is say, yeah, I've chosen a number. Yeah, you have a number. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and based on your answers, I'll be able to work out the number that you chose. Now, is your number on the first card, the yellow one on the top left?
No.
Now, see, if you were using cards, actual physical
Oh,
cards,
yes, sorry.
is it there?
Yeah.
Please double check, otherwise it will not work.
Yeah.
So if it's there, usually I leave the card facing up, but if it's not, I turn it down so it's sort of visually interesting. But if it's yes, I'll just circle this one for now, and I'll leave it circled. Now, is your number on the second one, the green one in the middle?
Yeah.
Cool, so I'll just leave that one facing up.
No, I can't see the third one properly.
Oh, is it because, is there something in the way?
Yeah, me.
Oh, you.
I don't hide self. No.
You might be able to drag yourself to
Just drag yourself to the
the
corner.
side.
No, is it anyone that can see all the cards?
I can, if that helps.
Yes, can you choose a number for me? 1 to 60.
Yeah.
Done. Is your number on the first card, the top left, the yellow card?
Yes.
Yes, I'll just circle that one. Imagine if you chose the same number as the other one. Is your number on the green card, the one in the
Yes.
middle, top middle? Yes, okay. Is your number on the third card, top right, the blue one?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, okay, that's cool. Yeah, what about the black card?
Yes.
It's also there, are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna circle that one as well. Is your number on the bottom middle?
No.
It's not there. Okay,
No.
so what I'll do is I'll cross this one. If you're using a sheet of paper, maybe laminate that sheet of paper so you can just use the sort of a whiteboard pen so you don't actually have to physically cross the paper. Now, what about the last one? Is it on last one?
Yes.
So I'll circle that one. Are you absolutely sure it's on the last one?
Yes.
Is your number 47?
Yes.
That's it, 47. And then hopefully the child will be like, oh my goodness, how did you do that? So now the thing is, the children are clever. They will probably think of ways of finding out how this thing works. They'll probably say, oh, but you can just quickly check a number that is on every single card. And that's why you have to be quite fast in terms of giving the answer. So try to give the answer as fast as you can. If you know how it works, it should be straightforward. So it's not like, oh, I'm just trying to work out by looking at these cards what the number is. Because actually it does look like a magic trick. Any ideas on how this works?
Yes.
Yeah, you know how this works. That's why you volunteered. Anyone else? How many people know how this works? Just one.
Yeah, I've done it too.
Oh, I've done it as well. Oh my God, I was so impressed. I said, why inside a Christmas cracker? They should sell this stuff. Well, yes, they do, but it's inside a Christmas cracker. And I think is really cool and extremely simple. The way it works is, obviously the child can choose any number they want. All you have to do is identify the cards where the number is, where their number is. And for example, if the card is on the yellow, if the number is on the yellow card, all you have to do is look at the number on the top left of the card. And in that case is the number 1. So let's say that I chose the number, let me choose a number here. Let's say that I chose the number 11. So let's start again. I chose the number 11. So the 11 is on the first card. So I look at the number on the top left corner is number 1. And then I do the same thing. Is your number on the one in the middle, the green one? Yes. So I focus on the number on the top left, number 2. And as you can see, it's not on the third card, the blue one. And if you look at the black card, it is on the black card. Look at that number there on the top left. It's not on the red and it's not on the purple. Now, all you have to do now is add those numbers. So 1 plus 2 plus 8. And that will give you your number. If you don't know how it works, mathematically speaking, it's something to do with powers of 2 or binary numbers. So 1 can also be expressed. Obviously, you're not going to talk about this with the children, but just because you're here. So 1 can be expressed as 2 to the power 0. 2 is 2 to the power 1. 4 is 2 to the power of 2. 8 is 2 to the power of 3, and so on. And by using these numbers here, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32, and addition, you can make any number from 1 to 60. That's, again, it links again to binary numbers, but using only these 6 numbers and addition, you can make all of the other numbers on display here right now. And it's really interesting. You can also give the cards to the child and ask the child if they can do the trick with you, see if they understand. And if you want to share the secret, it might also be a good opportunity for the child to practice addition. So they can go home with a sheet and try to run that trick with the parents so they can get the whole family involved. Any questions? If you want more information about the mystery calculator, this is the website. I'll also send you a link. If you want to know how it actually works, there it is. This one here is for mind reading math, and there's different ways you can set this up depending on the ability of the child. All you have to do is ask the child to think of a number. Now, if you're dealing with a child that struggles with mental maths, I'll probably give the child a pen and paper so the child can write things down. And you should also limit the number that the child can think of. So if you know the child who will struggle, you can say, think of a number between 1 and 5, or think between a number between 1 and 10, or 1 and 20, depending on the child's ability. And then what I do is, because if I know that I will probably need to help the child. And if I'm helping the child might think that I'm leading the child to a specific answer just so that the trick can work. So if I know that I will probably need to intervene and help the child with some of the calculations, what I'll do is I'll get a piece of paper beforehand and I will write a number there, let's say number 3, and I'll fold that piece in half again, quarters, and put it to the side and leave on the table. So leave that paper folded on the table with that number inside. And then we'll say to the child, choose a number between, let's say, 1 and 10. Now, you can all take part on this. Can you, all of you, if you want to take part, just think of a number You don't have to tell, please don't tell me, obviously, between 1 and 10 or whatever number you want to think of, and see if we can make this work. First step, can you please get your number and double it? So this is very good for children to practice doubling numbers. So again, if you think you will probably need to help the child, you can go through that first step together. You know that is a piece of paper there. You can even say before you start the trick, see that piece of paper there? That piece of paper is going to read your mind. The child's, oh my God, that's cool. So that piece of, yeah, you will work out the number. So number is going to be inside the paper. So double it. So next step, add 6. And then again, the child is not sure how to add 6. Yeah, help the child get some counters. Again, the outcome is the trick. So hopefully the child will engage because the child will want to see the end of that trick. And then halve it. So you start with a number and then double it, add 6, halve it. And then the final step is take away the first number that you thought of. So the child will probably also might need help with subtraction. That's why it depends on the number that you start with. And you should all have the number 3. Anyone that did not get the number 3? Okay, and that's cool because you can use any number you want. Obviously, you will have to change the way you run the trick. Anyone knows how this game works? Or this trick? Anyone? So what I'll do is I will explain, but please don't explain to the child unless you want to share the magic trick. But it's good because you can do that as many times as you want. The way it works is it doesn't matter the number you start from. Okay, it doesn't matter the number you're going to think of. I will make you end up with whatever number I want you to end up with using mathematics. So if you think of a number, let's say X, again, don't talk about this with the children, just so you understand this. So if I ask you to double it, so 2X, and I ask you to add 6, and then I ask you to divide the whole thing. So remember, it's a sequence, isn't it? You never go back to the first number. And then I ask you to take away the first number you thought of, X. Now, if you split that fraction to 2, you will see that the first fraction cancel, the 2 cancel with the 2 at the 2 at the top cancel with the 2 at the bottom. So you have X, take away X, but that X cancels with the other X. So you always end up with the number that you added divided by 2. So if I ask the child to add 6, I know the answer is going to be 3. If I ask the child to add 10, I know the answer is going to be 5. If I ask the child to add 8, I know the answer is going to be 4. So you can have multiple pieces of paper and you write a number on that paper, fold it in quarters, put on the table, say, oh, that paper is going to read your mind. And then you do the same thing again, but that time you add 10 or 8. Again, I think it's a good opportunity to practice addition. That trick involves all 4 multiplication, additional, subtraction, multiplication, division. So you can practice all 4. And if you're helping the child, you can go step by step.
I was just going to say that the 3 in a row, if you use the dice that we were given as part of our resources, which I think was a 0 to 9 dice or 0 to 12 dice, you can then, of course, have the multiples up to 12 on your grid, rather than just the multiples up to 6 on an ordinary dice. I was just going to add that in.
One simple dice game is you could literally, with a child, say you've got a 6 dice or to 9 dice, you could make up a rule which one number, when they roll that number, then you're out, and you could just say, how far do you think we're going to get before we're out? Or instead of the first to 20, you could say you don't want to get to 20 first, you want to be the last to get to 20. Or one number on the dice could be a number you subtract. So every time you roll a 5, you subtract 5 from your total. So dice, there's just so many games also with dice that are great too.
So I feel a games part 2 session coming up maybe after half term, sometime in March. But do just email me, and if there's other things you want to hear about or would you think would be useful for training, just drop me an email. So thank you all for your time. Have a lovely rest of evening and hope to see you soon. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Mentor.
Thank you.